There's a couple ways to play A major. I'm going to show you the first way, the way I prefer to play it, and that's with these back three fingers, meaning the 2 finger, the 3 finger, and the 4 finger. Okay, now if you notice on this diagram that's popping up right here, notice how the 6th string has an X on it. That means you do not play that string. The 5th string right here has a 0, meaning that you pluck the string open. Then the 4th string on the 2nd fret has a 2nd finger, or number 2 in that circle. The 3rd string on the 2nd fret has a number 3 finger, right here. And then the 2nd string of the 2nd fret has a number 4 finger, meaning the pinky. Okay, and then notice on the 1st string you have a 0 on this end, meaning meaning that you played open. So what you're going to do is once you get comfortable with that positioning, you're going to go ahead and work on single plucking it, one by one by one. Okay, now once you get used to that, if this chord feels weird in this position, let's talk about a different way to play it. Another way you can play it is with the front 3 fingers, meaning the 1st finger, 2nd finger, and 3rd finger on that 2nd fret of the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string, just like this. Same thing, you're going to work on single plucking it. One by one by one. Remember, don't play that 6th string. And the last way you can play it is with the 2nd finger, 1st finger, and 3rd finger, just like that. And once again, you can single pluck that. Now, for this positioning, this 3rd one I showed you, that's the most awkward and the one I don't see used the most. It is common. I know some guitar players use it and they feel very comfortable with it. I personally don't. I like these back 3, the first way I showed you. The second way, I feel like my fingers are a little bit more cluttered. But the idea is whichever way you play or whichever one you choose, you want to make sure you feel most comfortable using that method. Okay, now for me, like I said, it just feels a little bit easier. I don't feel so crowded, so I use this version instead. Now, as I was saying, when you single pluck, the thing you want to concentrate on, because I see a lot of people making these mistakes, is the first thing is putting enough pressure onto the strings. If you don't put enough pressure onto these strings, you're going to get kind of like a buzzing sound out of those strings where you're not putting enough pressure, like this. Okay, so you want to make sure to put enough pressure on those strings where you get an even sound, or not an even sound, but where you get them all sounding clean, okay, where they're all clear that you can hear them being played. But you don't want to over push and kung fu grip those strings. Notice how in the back of my forearm you see all my muscles flexing. These are all the muscles you're using when playing. And notice the easier I play, the less you see them flexing, but the more strain I put, you can see my veins and everything popping out. Okay, you also don't want to have your elbow jammed into your side or your rib cage. You don't want to play like this. Okay, you also don't want to have your wrist drop down too far where you're coming too forward or your wrist is in front of the guitar. You want to keep it nice and straight in the back when you play. So when you play this chord, you want to make sure, once again, put enough pressure, but not too much pressure where you're overstraining your fingers or your muscles. Okay, that's how you hurt yourself. The other thing I see people do is thumb placement. I like to play with my thumb really high, and I use it for grip with the back end and grip in the front end, okay? So I'm kind of gripping on both ends of the guitar. But if this doesn't work for you, you can drop that thumb to the fingerprint in the back of the neck right in the middle. And watch what I do when I pull this away. Notice where my thumb is. I'm using the fingerprint, and I'm putting it on the back of the neck, and I'm just gripping it right there instead, okay? Now, another mistake I see people make is they use the wrong strings. They put their 3 fingers on 5, 4, and 3 strings instead of 4, 3, and 2 strings. So they put it right here and then they play like this. Okay, now if you're not familiar with the A major sound, you won't recognize the difference, but if you're familiar with it, you're going to notice something's off. So make sure to play on the right strings. And the last thing I see people do is not curl their fingers into those frets enough where they make contact with only the tip of the fingers. Notice how I have those little indentions or creases on my fingers. You play with the bone or the tip of the finger to make contact with the strings. Now if you don't, notice what's going to happen with my fingers. If you kind of curl them down or don't curl them as much, you're going to get this out of that first string. You're going to get a mute. Notice that mute. The way you get rid of that is you curl a little bit more. You don't drop your whole wrist. You just curl a little bit more with those fingers, and you can drop your wrist slightly. But the idea is don't pull it forward like that. Okay? So once again, let's go over those tips. Put in enough pressure, but not too much pressure where you strain your wrist or your fingers or, your forearm, anything like that. Thumb placement, worry about that a little bit. And then you want to make sure to curl those fingers up so you don't get that mute right here. And the other one was make sure you play on the right strings. I'm playing on 4, 3, and 2 strings. Don't play on 5, 4, and 3. Okay, and that should help you with the A major.